Rick and Morty Ever After. It starts out with Morty in school, a pretty boring start making me wonder what they're thinking. And thank goodness he's drawn well after the first panel. Everyone having dots for eyes with no corneas had me worried. He's told that for tomorrow's test, he'll need to have finished the whole book and come prepared to write about the hero, villain, and helper tropes. The school bell rings, and we see something behind Morty saying 2 plus 2 is, and then exclamation point. As if the artist wasn't even trying to make sense. He's a teenager after all. Jessica's told that class is over and calls him a nerd uncharacteristically. She's smiling like a nice person, which makes it even more confusing. She says that it felt like the longest class ever for her too, and wants him to walk with her out of nowhere. Both of them are only halfway into the book because it's too depressing, and he's nervous around her because of his crush on her, and when he bumps into her, she forgives him like a nice person and tells him to go ahead. Which is way better than doing something only a bitch would do in response to that, like calling someone a curse word. Instead, she's very forgiving. Surprisingly nice as usual. She tells him he's so chivalrous when he tells her that she should go ahead first because she's a lady, but is too nervous to say the phrase right. This is a really mundane scene with not much going on, so it's disappointing that way. But their character interaction is great. It's refreshing and weird to see Jessica having a conversation with him for so long. She says that if they were in that book, she'd owe him her firstborn. And she says she can't believe animated movies lied to her so bad all this time, and complains that the princess dies in the end. I'd care about what she was saying if I knew what book she was talking about. She said she has to get home to study and tells him good luck on the test tomorrow, which is nice too. Morty then sighs sadly and puts in earbuds that welcome him back to his audiobook. Rick tells everyone to get back, and an explosion knocks Morty away, even though realistically the shock wave alone would turn him to jello. Jerry asks if everyone's okay around here, and then complains about Rick driving his power bill up all the time. Rick says it was worth the inexplicable explosion because his latest device is now operating at full capacity, despite the explosion. Morty is bored at another new invention of his without even seeing it, and Rick says endearingly, "Well yeah, what else am I gonna do all day?" Rick shows him a barbell, which he insists on calling a shake weight for some reason. He doesn't find it a challenge, and then shows him his actual new invention. Morty's told to bring him a book on blood engineering, which bores him. Rick is shown to have limits because he doesn't already have the contents of it memorized. Rick says that first you take a book that you want to actually understand, and then you plug in yourself and the book. How do you plug in a book? I guess he's speaking metaphorically so we'll understand. Does it just scan the ink inside the pages of the book, even though the book's closed? So now he immediately knows everything about blood engineering. What a magical invention. Morty's bored by it, and somehow doesn't immediately get the idea to use the invention to cheat on his English class, even though that was obvious right away. Instead, he's reluctant to try it on. Morty calls his book stupid. For some reason, Rick tells him that he should read it because he should be taking his academics more seriously. I find it very hard to believe Rick would take English class seriously. Wouldn't he say it was pointless? It's not like it's science. Didn't he say school was for losers in the show? Rick's dialogue isn't enough to get me to care about the book, especially not since it's too tiny in text. Morty hates the book because instead of the characters having happy endings, they just keep dying, in completely avoidable ways. That's the worst kind of character death to write. It's true, it gets you feeling the worst, but it's sadistic to want your audience to be as frustrated as possible. Thankfully, Rick admits, that is pretty fucked up, suddenly taking Morty's side after all. He plans on injecting the book into his brain, volunteering to help him with nothing to gain just because he cares about him. Morty briefly objects because that'd be cheating. Rick naturally says that's all in his brain either way, and because Morty somehow thinks that getting a great grade would make Jessica date him, he agrees. I still don't trust the invention not to screw him over in some way though, because otherwise, that'd be easy. And this is the only plot in the story we've seen. Rick says wait because it's only designed for one. So then Rick tells him to speak up because he can't hear him as he's got a beard and Morty has different clothes as well. And arbitrarily, Morty and Rick end up in pocket universes based on that fairy tale book. But when Rick showed off the blood engineering book, he learned everything about it in seconds. The only explanation is that what's going on is that in real time, almost no time is passing. And this is all in their heads, as they're experiencing a time-dilated simulation of them being in the book's universe, so that they'll understand all of it. I don't get this! That's stupid! Wouldn't Rick not bother with making it like that and just want to understand the entire book right away to keep things simple and not tedious? How in the world could they be transported to another universe based on a book by accident, just by Morty pressing a button? It had to be something programmed in on purpose. That'd be too complex. What does making a simulation have to do with telling you stuff? It's completely different functions. What the hell is so hard about simply having a plot where Rick uses a portal gun to take Morty to a world based on his book? That'd make way more sense as an excuse for Morty to go to this universe. But then they wouldn't have a lame excuse to have the two of them separated, so that I'll be intrigued by seeing them on their own. Rick uses flimsy excuses to travel to different universes all the time. Rick says he hasn't had a long beard since the 60s and he's just like a wizard. He realizes what happened to him, and says he reverse osmosed himself into Avalonia itself. But somehow doesn't question how that's possible, when books are just ink on paper, not a gateway to another dimension. He can't find his portal gun because it's in the garage where he was trying to keep hydrated. He's greeted by a weird-looking character named Marius, who tells him that the king requested his services right away to save the kingdom. Rick tells him to beat it because he's busy, but he won't take no for an answer. Morty's naturally scared, and lampshades that's hard to breathe in his clothing. Morty continues to waste my time doing nothing. He thinks he can just jump out of this window and live because it's just a story and he can do whatever he wants. Has he gone insane? Why would he think he's immortal now? In the episode that parodied Inception, he was still told that if he dies in someone's dream, he'll die in real life. I guess he's smart enough to realize this is all just in his head, a hallucination to help him understand the book. That's impressive of him. He doesn't seem to want to get out of here because he doesn't want to deal with Rick anymore. He'll miss him eventually anyways. After season 5, I don't take this seriously anymore. Two characters threaten the protagonist, saying that won't end happily for them. And that ends the first issue, which has an extremely arbitrary, confusing start to it to justify it. I understand Morty's motive, but how did this happen by accident?